the best of from two of Italy's most beloved locales, experience the country's renowned food, culture, history, and landscapes. We're going to be departing on September 30th and returning on October 9th. Okay. So we're doing this trip with Colette Tours. And I have to tell you, there's many, many reasons why I like Colette Tours. So first of all, they've been in business over 100 years, and only 2 families have owned them. And the daughter of Dan Sullivan just took over as president. So great company. They are, you know, when COVID hit, we were all very, very upset, you know, and people had to try to get refunds and things like that. And I talked to Colette because I had dozens and dozens of people booked on Colette. And he said, we are very cash solvent. You know, well, I guess that's kind of redundant, isn't it? We are very solvent. We could operate for the next 3 years with no additional income. So that makes you feel good. You know you're working with a company that's solid. And the other thing that's great about this for things like the chamber is this tour could have anywhere from 35 to 40 people on it. Let's say only the people in this room go. Okay, let's say we don't get anybody else. The trip is still going to go because Colette will advertise it to the whole country. So it could be just people from upstate New York on this if we get enough people. It could be people from all over the country. But you don't have to worry about, a lot of times trips get canceled. They go, oh, we just didn't get enough people. You can't operate a tour with 12 people. You know, you can't multiply those costs. It would be too expensive. So it's really, really great that we use Colette Travel. I would say that they are an absolute solid 4-star company. Now, why aren't they 5-star? Because they're not $1 million. Okay. There are 5-star tour companies, but they're very expensive. Okay, you're staying in hotels like the Ritz and things like that, and most people want something a little bit more reasonably priced. So they're very, very solid, and we really, really like them. So anyway, that's it. So next. Okay, you may have seen Colette on
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune, thank you.
Name that game show.
Mine was Jeopardy. So they're out there a lot. Next. Okay, so many people say, oh, I don't want to be tied in by a tour, okay? But there's actually a freedom of touring, okay? You don't have to worry about your bags, all right? From the minute you take them out of the airport, you're not going to have to handle them again. They're going to be put on a bus. They're going to be taken off on a bus. If you take a train on your own through Italy, you're going to be schlepping your own bags on and off the train, which, you know, I'm sure everyone's done, and it's not fun, okay? You don't have to worry about what are we doing tomorrow? Are we going to be able to get into this? Are we going to be able to get into that? It's already taken care of for you. You've got a professional with you who can help you do anything. I was recently on a Colette tour in South Africa, and we got to Cape Town, and a couple came up to us and they said, we left our jackets in the closet at the other hotel, which was a 3-hour drive away. Well, Colette got on it. They had them the next day. They were going to ask the hotel to ship them home. We're like, well, then you're going to have to buy new jackets while you're here. Anyway, so having somebody who's really taking care of you every tiny bit along the way is really important. So not only will you have a professional tour manager who will be the person who's in charge of the entire tour, but in certain places, you'll also have a local guide. So like when if you visit the Vatican, you actually have a specialized Vatican guide, okay? All right, next. What sets them apart? They have a commitment to innovation. One of the things they have, and what they were one of the first ones to do it, is they have their own app. So if you're on a Colette tour, you can actually open up the app, click on the day that of where you are, and it'll say, this is what the weather's going to be today. Here are some local restaurants. This is the name of your hotel, which can be handy if you just want to show it to the taxi cab driver. They'll bring you there. So they really do innovate. 106 years now. They've got a great tour pacing where you do something in the morning and then maybe you're free in the afternoon. Very responsible travel. They actually try to make an impact in the world. Depending upon the tour that you go on, you know, in Peru, we visited a children's home. Somewhere else, we visited a local village that they're trying to support, okay? Worry-free booking, travel and transportation, and very, very seasoned team. They've been in business a very long time, okay? The product philosophy is, we're not your grandmother's tour. They're trying to break the mold. That, you know, it's not, if it's Tuesday, this is Belgium. You know, we try to do, you know, 3-night stays, 4-night stays, so you're not, you know, packing up, leaving. Then you can't even remember what you saw. They include things like local restaurants, home-hosted meals, cooking classes, food tours. Accommodations can mean hotels, it can mean castles, it can mean villas, tree houses. Yeah, they really do stay in a tree house in one place. And the transportation could be trains, it could be tuk-tuks, which are those little tiny, you know, almost like little golf carts, you know, things like that. So they try to use a lot of variety of that as well. They try to spend as little time as possible on a motor coach. And it's really interesting because if you look through certain hotel brochures, because I sell every tour company, you know, so, well, some I won't sell, but there are certain tours that are even less expensive than this. But a lot of times they'll do what I call, they won't do a one-way travel. So for example, if somebody is going into Rome, we're flying out on this trip from Naples. Why would we want to go all the way back to Rome? Okay, it's cheaper because the coach begins someplace, the coach ends someplace, but it's not the best as far as time and money. Okay, so they do a lot of what we call one-way travel, which you'll see when we look at the map. I'll show you what I mean. They also include a lot of the must-sees instead of as optional tours. There's this one tour company that's very inexpensive, and when people come in and say they want one of those brochures, I say, okay, but let's compare what's included compared to another tour, because you can have a real bare bones tour, but then say, well, of course I want to see David in Florence, or of course I want to see this, and then you got to start adding them all on, and it doesn't turn out to be so great in a long time, right? Let's move on. Okay, let's go. Andiamo. Okay. So we're going to Rome and the Amalfi Coast, and I just missed my place for a second, so give me 1 minute. Okay, so we just want to tell you that in Albany this time of year, the temperature is a low of 50, a high of 65. In Rome, that time of year, it's a low of 58 and a high of 75. And in Vietri sul Mare, which is on the Amalfi Coast, it's an average low of 62 and an average high of 75. It's a lovely weather to be traveling. Really nice weather. Okay. Now, the overall activity for this tour is a level 3, okay? You're an on-the-go traveler. You don't want to miss a thing. Walking and standing for longer periods of times isn't a big deal. A moderately paced 2.5-hour walking tour covering several miles, hills, or uneven surfaces is no problem for you. Walking 4 miles over the course of the day should be very doable in order to do this tour, okay? Now, if you look at this itinerary, you'll see the little plane going into Rome and the little plane coming out of Naples. And you can see that that makes sense if you're going in one, coming out of the other. Now, we'll get to it a little bit later on, but there's an extension, a pre-tour extension for this trip in Florence. And that makes great sense because Florence is up here. So you would fly into Florence, then go to Rome, and then go here, and then fly home from Naples. You always want to do it in the way it makes the most sense, because all travel comes down to time and money. Because if we had unlimited time and unlimited money, I wouldn't even be here, okay? So time and money, so when you shorten the distances, you're saving time and money. So this is a nice itinerary. Okay, they show that little pre-departure to Florence there. That's a 3-night tour. Okay. Okay, so this tour will begin in the Eternal City. We'll fly out in the evening and arrive there in the morning. Now, our hotel rooms are usually not ready when you fly into Europe in the morning, but they will still take all your bags to the hotel. They'll secure them, and then you can go for a walk. You can go get something to eat, have some breakfast, do something like that, and then get back to the hotel. Typically, don't do anything on this first day. Let me get my own brochure. But I think dinner's not really bad. Yes, we have dinner included that evening. There'll be a welcome dinner. So you'll have time in the afternoon when your rooms are ready to go in your rooms, take a nap for a little while. You don't want to sleep too long. And then go from there. So Rome, 3,000 years of art, architecture, culture, religion. It's the smallest state in the world, which is Vatican City, excuse me. And that, of course, is where St. Peter's and Vatican museums are. Okay. Okay, so that night we will join, all the travelers will get together for a welcome dinner, celebrating the start of your Italian journey. Now, sometimes that first night they might have in the hotel, they usually try to avoid hotel meals, but it's just sometimes for convenience. People don't want to schlep around. They've only taken a nap for a couple of hours. You really want to get a good night's sleep that first night. Okay. So then the next day, we're going to do a locally guided tour of classical Rome. We're going to walk over cobblestone streets and weathered passageways to discover famous sites, such as what you're looking at here, which is the Piazza Navona. The reason why it's in the shape of that is many, many years ago, it was the stadium of Domitian, and that's why it's that shape. So it was like a stadium, like a racetrack. Okay.
And I figured out if you watched Angels and Demons, that's the fountain they try to drown one of the cardinals in.
Okay, and if you remember the old.
One in the middle.
Yes.
What's the name of the director? Vittorio Sito, I think, with Sophia Loren. He does 3 stories with Sophia Loren, and one of them, she plays a prostitute, and her apartment is right up here. Right up there. It's in a movie in the 50s. Okay. So we're going to start our walking tour. Okay, next. Then we're going to tread in the footsteps of ancient gladiators during an in-depth visit to the Colosseum. So there'll be skip the line tickets. You'll have a fast entry. You'll have headsets. And this is where there will be a specialized guide, okay, that will tell you all about the Colosseum. In walking around that day, we're also going to see the Trevi Fountain, the Pantheon, a lot of the sites that you're going to see, you actually kind of see as you're going through the city. Okay, so that night, your first dinner on your own is going to be this evening. Okay, all right, next. The evening is yours. Perhaps you'll stroll to the top of the Spanish Steps for views of the city's skyline or meander through Rome's lively Monte district to soak in the local life. That's interesting because I was in Rome last April, just for a day, and the friend I met took me through the Monte district. Those of you who are familiar with Rome, if you were looking at a map of Rome, it's sort of between the Colosseum and the rail station. And it was an area that was really just a local neighborhood, and now it's become very, very trendy. So we walked through there. It was really nice. Okay. On day 4, you have a full day at leisure to explore Rome's cultural treasures. There is an optional trip to the Vatican City and St. Peter's Basilica. And in the afternoon, you can stroll the Borghese Gardens, walk around, have a cappuccino, pretty much have a full day free. And if there's anything else you want to do, if you want to go see the sculpture at the Borghese Gallery, your guide can help set that up. There's a lot to do in Rome. Okay. They're talking about the optional Vatican Museums tour. It's $99 per person. It's 4 hours. And you have to know that when you do this tour, you're actually walking 3 miles, because that's how extensive the museums are. You're walking in and out. And of course, you do see the Sistine Chapel as well, and St. Peter's Basilica. And fortunately, that day is a Thursday, so it won't be quite as crowded as Wednesdays are or Saturdays and Sundays. So that will actually be a little bit better than normal. Another option for that evening, yes, we can go ahead, Ellen. All right, this is the Trastevere food tour. So it starts like around 5:45 at night. And you walk from place to place. So you stop at the first place, and maybe you have some olives. Then you stop at the next place, and maybe you taste some of their prosciutto and maybe some cheese. Then you go to another place and you have a little bit of, it is enough for dinner. I mean, it's a dinner, but you stop at like 6, 7 places. And you do it in Trastevere, which is the old Jewish section of Rome. And it's so funny because I've sent a lot of people to Italy. And I would say 99% of the people that take this tour, because it's not just with Colette, I mean, you know, you can take it with other trips too. They say, oh my gosh, it was my favorite part of the whole tour. I'm like, come on, I arranged you to see, you know, David in a private tour. I said, oh, no, the food tour. Everybody loves it. It's so much fun. There's wine, there's eating, and of course, guess what you end with at the end? Gelato, absolutely. When you're in Italy, you have a gelato every day, but you have to walk when you're doing it. That's the way you can do it. All right. So that is also an optional tour. Now, the optional tours, you don't have to sign up for now, and you don't have to pay for them now. You don't take care of those, excuse me, until the final payment is due. So that's fine. Okay. And then on day 5, we're going to leave Rome and we're going to start our journey to the Amalfi Coast. Okay. Along the way, we're going to stop in Monte Cassino. You can go. Yeah. So it's perched on a hill about 8 miles south of Rome. It's the home of the monastery of Saint Benedict, the patron saint of Europe and the founder of Western monasticism. Since it was founded in 529, it really has a very, very interesting history, including a lot of bombings during World War II and natural disasters, being pillaged. So it makes a really nice stop along the way because, like I said, you don't want to be straight on a bus, on a motor coach, I'm supposed to say, but anyway, okay. So this shows you the inside of the monastery there. It suffered severe damage during the war, but they did do a great job doing the renovation. So that is the chapel. And there are also beautiful courtyards, so you'll see that. We can go on. And then in the afternoon, we will arrive in the Amalfi Coast, which will be your new home for the next 5 nights, which is fabulous. You're going to have some time to explore the hotel. The hotel is on a cliff overlooking the sea. Okay, they do have a shuttle that goes into town. But it's a beautiful, beautiful location. It's not in town. Because if you look down, you can see if you were in town, if you were really flat in town, then you wouldn't get those gorgeous views, you know, down by where the beach is, right? You can upgrade on your trip to a ocean view room if you'd like. So you can go to the next one. A deluxe sea view room would be $325 per person for the whole stay. Okay, so that's what you can do for the total 5 nights. All right, let's move on. That just shows you another picture of the sea view. And next. Now, this shows you what the non-sea view looks like. Because it's on a hill, if you don't have a sea view, you're in the back of the hotel pretty much. So it's just like a hill going up. Okay, so that's what the back of the hotel looks like. So you'll either be in this or the deluxe sea view. All right, we'll move on. On day 6, we're going to actually sail, as long as the weather is good, along the Amalfi Coast. We're going to stop in Amalfi. Beautiful, beautiful village. Absolutely gorgeous. It's got hills, though, again, you know, like if you want to walk to the paper museum, it's a slight incline, you know, and we'll be there for a little while and visit that. Amalfi still makes the paper for the Vatican. All of these little inlets here that you see along the coast, you see how it goes in, then the next one goes in, and the next one goes in. There were rivers, little rivers that came down the middle of these towns, and they had paper mills. And there's still a paper mill in operation in Amalfi, and it is so charming, and it's still shows you how they used, wood to block up the dam, and then they open up the dam, and that gets the machines to start pounding the pulp. It's really, really, I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm in Amalfi. So you'll have time to explore on your own, and then move on. Oh, I'm sorry, this is still Amalfi. That's the famous cathedral in Amalfi. It's really, really pretty. So striped Byzantine facade. All right. Then we'll continue on, you'll explore on your own, and then we'll continue to Positano. Pebbly beaches, beautiful boutiques. Oh, that's okay. Oh, how did we get there? Oh.
That's wrong. I did
Go
back.
back to the
Back,
lady
yep,
in the kitchen.
Sure, yep. There we go.
Okay, because that is going to be our pasta class. Okay, that's actually gonna be the next day after we go to Positano and then go back to the hotel. So this is on day 7. We're gonna start with a visit to the pasta factory and see how they make their famous traditional techniques. Then you're going to go to Sorrento. And you're gonna be able to wander the streets in Sorrento, see St. Francis Church, maybe have some gelato, see the lemons all over the place. They're like bigger than grapefruits. They're absolutely incredible. So you'll have time to spend there and then continue on. One of my favorite places in the world, the mozzarella cheese farm. You've been there, right, Nancy?
No.
You've never been there?
No,
On a trip with Alba?
no.
No, oh my goodness, it's
What?
south of Amalfi, and it's where they have the water buffaloes that they make the mozzarella out of.
No.
You've never seen anything in your life, when you see that they have massage machines that the buffaloes walk through, and it massages their bodies, they wash them every day, I mean, they're incredibly, incredibly well kept. And the thing that's great about there is they make all the mozzarella by hand. It all has to be pulled apart by hand. And then you're gonna have a taste. You're gonna have a farm to table taste of all the fresh mozzarella stuff, because it's just not mozzarella. It's regatta, and it's all so fresh and so delicious. It's absolutely wonderful. I remember when we were leaving our hotel, and I was just chit-chatting with person at the front desk, and they said, "What are you doing today?" And I said, "Oh, we're going down to the mozzarella farm." They're like, "Oh, really? Can you bring us back some?" Because they don't ship. So if there's a hotel in Rome that wants this mozzarella, they have to send somebody down there to get it early in the morning to bring it back for the night. And I did. I bought a bunch of mozzarella and brought it back to the hotel for them. Oh, it's fun. You're gonna love that. That's gonna be really great. On day 8, the next day, you're going to have a day of leisure. Going to be free to do whatever you want. Now, the ferries leave right from in the town here, and you can go. Like, let's say you say, I didn't care for Positano, but I'd love to go back to Amalfi. You just get on a ferry and go. The ferries run very frequently. You can ask before you get on what time's the last one coming back.
How far of a ride is it?
I'm sorry.
How far of a ride is it if you want to go back?
If you were going from here to Amalfi, it would probably be about 15-20 minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then from Amalfi to Positano is probably another 10 or 15 minutes. You know how I was pointing out those like little inlets where they went in? So one is just right next to the next one. There are even some places, like if you took the ferry to Maori, you could walk to Minori. You know what I mean? There's actually a little sidewalk that goes. You could also do the Path of the Gods or the Path of the Lemons, which are on top of the mountains. So if somebody likes hiking, there's definitely going to be, they would have opportunity to do that. You can also go on, there's an optional boat trip on this day if you want to. And if the boats are operating, you can go to the next one, which is to Capri. Okay, that's $165 per person. And it's a 9-hour trip. It includes the ferry round trip. And also, it also includes, a guide while you're there. Because it's an actual escorted trip. So it includes lunch, the guide, because there's Anna Capri, there's Capri. It's very, very pretty. The only thing I have to warn you is it's very dependent upon the sea. Normally you would have good weather this time of year, so it shouldn't be a problem. but just in case, they do sometimes have to cancel it, just so you know. Okay, so that's one of the things you can do on that day. That's 9 hours, so that would take the whole day. Okay, so then next day, on day 9, we're going to Pompeii. And while in Pompeii, you'll have a choice. You can either do the Pompeii walking tour, or you can do off the beaten track walking tour. So the regular Pompeii walking tour isn't as vigorous as the off the beaten track walking tour. So this way, not one person isn't going to see more than the other, but they'll reach there by different means. Okay, so this way you could either take it a little easier or not. Okay, so you're going to do that in the morning. And this is Pompeii. For those of you who haven't been, it really is truly incredible. Has anybody here been to Pompeii? You guys have been, haven't you? No. No? Okay. All right, it's really amazing. It really is breathtaking. And you can see Mount Etna in the distance. And then, they're just talking more about the tours. You do go off the beaten track tour. I do have information for that, because the iconic walking tour is about 1 mile. Okay. And the off the beaten track walking tour is about 2 miles. Okay, just so that you know what you're looking at. Okay, next. You'll see a lot of stuff that is very interesting about Pompeii, which is how they live their everyday lives. Okay, it's not just looking at ruins, it's looking at the roads and say, oh, what are these blocks in the middle of it? Well, the carts were horse-drawn. So there were blocks that are set up exactly so the carts wouldn't hit them, but that if you wanted to cross the road and not drag your toga in the horse manure, you would just step on these little blocks to cross the road, and little things like that. You'll see the first fast food restaurant. They think it's the first fast. You'll see the built baths. You'll also get to see the frescoes, because there are a lot of frescoes there, and they're constantly reworking them. So it really is beautiful. It's a once in a lifetime thing. So that's going to be in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we're going to stop at a winery. Okay. And not only will they tell us a little bit about their winery, we'll do some tasting of wine, and we'll also have what they usually call a light lunch. Now, this is the funny thing. Whenever I've done any tour to Italy and included any kind of winery or the mozzarella farm or anything, I'll go, what are we going to have? They'll go, it's a light lunch. Like, they won't tell me. I mean, I'm working directly with the winery. They won't tell me. Don't worry, it's a light lunch. Well, you get there and it's maybe a 20-foot long table with olives and cheeses and breads and prosciutto, and it's just like this huge antipasta thing. At the last winery I went to, oh my gosh, it was like pasta, and then there was a meat, and it's like, this isn't a light lunch, but everything local. The thing is, it's all local, and it's fantastic. It's really delicious. So we'll do that in the afternoon. We'll have lunch there, and then we'll go back to the hotel and we'll have a farewell dinner that evening. So this is going to be the last night. We'll have a farewell dinner, and then the tour will come to a close on the next day. We will include, of course, the transportation from getting from the hotel to Naples for the flight. Naples back to the United States will probably be a connection. There's very few non-stops. I think there's one, and I'm not even sure if it's still operating at that time. So it'll probably be a connection or bring us back to New York, where our motor coach will be waiting, and bring you home. Okay, back to Del Mar. Now, let's say somebody says, well, I've got relatives in Italy, or I've always wanted to go to Venice. Could I go to Venice after this? Sure. We could book you a flight from Naples to Venice. You could stay a couple of days. Then you would have the flight home. And guess what? When you got to Kennedy, there would be a car waiting for you to bring you home. Any pre-trips or extensions, as long as I confirm the airfare with Colette, will include transportation to and from, even if it's only one of them. Okay. When we did the Ireland trip, there was an option to spend a couple of nights beforehand in London or a couple of nights afterwards in Edinburgh. Some people did both. Some people did just before, some people did just the after, some people didn't do any and just did Ireland. Every single person had transportation to and from the airport. Okay, just so you know. Even if you want to go someplace totally different, I had a woman who was going on a Rome trip and she had family in Lebanon. So she wanted to fly to Beirut from Rome. So we did, we flew to Beirut, and then on the way home, she flew Beirut, Rome, back to Kennedy. Car was waiting for her, and it only cost $300 more. She was able to go all the way to Beirut for 2 weeks, come back and have the car transportation service. Very, very unusual. That's not the typical type of tour. So let's sort of go over this again. Oh, wait. Oh, the Florence. Okay, I'm sorry. This is the extend your stay in Florence. Okay, it's 5 days only because they're including that day that you have an overnight flight to get there. Okay, let me get my Florence extension. If anybody's never been to Florence, it's absolutely beautiful. Almost the entire city is a pedestrian zone. So there's not a lot of traffic. Yeah, let me know, Patty. if you have any questions. Okay, it's a 3-night stay. It includes a guided walking tour of Florence. The afternoon is free. You can go see David. You can go see the Uffizi, anything you want. There's also a tour of the left bank while you're there, where the Medici family was. A lot of good stuff in Venice. The museums, if you love art, in Florence, is really quite incredible. Yeah, what's there? Okay, so that is an option, right? And while you're there, you get to see the Duomo. You can even climb up into the dome. There's a stairway that goes between the inside architecture of the dome and the outside architecture, and you can actually walk up there. I had a friend whose husband is a mason, and she did that. It was really good. We can go on. And then this is just showing you what part of the academia where Michelangelo's David is. Great shopping. There's a lot of markets, etc. Let me just, yeah, okay. All right, let's go on again. And this is the guided walking tour of the city's left bank, which is Altrano. We're left bank of the Arno River. Okay. And that's what Florence looks like from the hills outside, with the famous Ponte Vecchio bridge right there in the middle. Okay, so again, we have a hometown pickup, which is really, really important when you have to go down to New York. We don't like to fly out of Albany. You need too long a layover. You have to check in for your flight 3 hours ahead of time. This is the way to do it. Okay. And you can also, of course, personalize your adventure. You can have elite airfare. You're going to have dining experiences, optional excursions, pre-nights, post-nights. Let's say you want to stay longer in Amalfi, you can do that as well. Okay. And the no worries travel protection. So, you know, the world, the way it is today, things can get canceled. And Palette is one of the few tour companies that has an absolute cancel for any reason up until 24 hours before the trip. I mean, you could, 2 days beforehand, you could say, I don't like the way my hair looks. You could cancel the trip. You would get all your money back except for the travel protection. Then within 24 hours, it lets you cover for any kind of medical reason to you or anyone in your immediate family. An immediate family for them is pretty extensive. The only thing it doesn't really cover is cousins. I mean, it covers aunts, uncles, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, you know, a lot of people. Okay. So that's a really nice thing to have. The other thing the travel protection does cover as well is if you're there and something happens at home, you've got to turn around and come home. It covers not only the cost of getting you home, but you would actually get the trip probated for what you missed. Now, the other thing a lot of people have to do is you got to check and find out whether your health insurance covers you when you're in Europe. Okay, so not everybody's does. I have a Medicare supplemental plan that does not cover me in Europe, so I always take the insurance. Okay, but I think everybody should take the insurance anyway. With, you know, COVID or whatever, if you needed to cancel, you want to be able to get your money back. So, we'll go over the cost of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I think you implied it, so medical coverage for yourself in Europe.
In Europe, yes, while you're in Europe, you and whoever you're traveling with are covered for medical problems. So, for example, they turned out to be, they were in their thirties, these two young sisters, they were traveling in Spain, and they were on a motor coach between two cities. And one of the girls all of a sudden had a pain in her calf, and it was hot to the touch, and it was red. So the tour manager looked at it, and they immediately called an ambulance because they thought it was a blood clot, which it turned out it was. So the ambulance came and took the woman, her sister, and the tour guide. And the tour guide said, I'll call ahead when the motor coach gets to Barcelona, you'll be met by another tour guide, but I have to go with them because they don't speak Spanish. You know, so she went with them to the hospital. They were there for 2 weeks. They paid for a hotel for the sister. They took care of the hospitalization, and then they turned around and changed the flight so she could come home. And there was somebody there anytime they needed anybody as far as interpretation and things like that. So it's really, really an excellent policy. And I don't know if anybody here has ever paid for a trip cancellation lately, but it's roughly 7 to 10% of the cost of your trip at a baseline. And every year that you're older, it's a higher percentage. I did travel insurance for somebody recently, and their trip for the two of them was $10,000, and their travel insurance was $1,200. It's very expensive.
It's about
Very
right.
expensive. Yeah. So we'll go on with that. All right, so next one, yes, you're covered on tour, medical assistance, evacuation, baggage loss, or baggage delay. Okay, next one. Now, this is the other thing. When you sign up for this tour, if you want the insurance, you have to pay for it at the time. So for example, if you were gonna give me a credit card tonight, we would put both the deposit and the insurance on that. Everything is refundable up until March 25th, even the cancellation insurance. After March 25th, everything's refundable except the cancellation insurance. Okay, so if you had to cancel for some reason before March 25th, you'd also get that back. Okay. Collette has a loyalty program, and actually this has changed. It used to be $150 off if you traveled within 12 months of your last tour, and $100 off if you traveled within 13 to 24 months of your last tour. Now they've changed it to a percentage where it's 5% of what you last spent, which when you think about it, it really wasn't fair before, because you had somebody who spent like, $10,000 and went to Africa, and somebody else who went on a trip, on a collect tour to Nashville, which was $2,000, and they were each getting 150 off. Now the person who went to South Africa, I've got some people going, for example, on my Croatia trip in April that were on my South Africa trip. They got $350 off plus the early booking discount. So close to $500 off. So it's a really good program. So they've actually improved it. I like it more. Okay. The one thing you'd have to do now is to check your passport. They're saying 8 months. We usually tell people 6 months before, 6 months after your last trip date. So for example, this trip comes home on October 9th. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Your passport cannot expire before or on April of 2025. Okay, so you'd want to have it renewed before that. Okay. Now they keep on coming on. You may have heard it in the news that you're going to have to do this visa travel authorization. It's put off again, so it's not a concern. If it was, I would let you know about it. So, but they keep on putting it off, so they're not doing it anymore right now. So we can move on. And then on the back of your brochure, there's a website on the bottom. It's the HTTPS gateway called Go Collect. You can go on that, or you can use this scanned the QR code, and it has so much more information: packing, weather, clothes, just a ton of information. So you can go to that if you want even more info. You can also sign up online if you want to as well. Okay. So we do have a book early and save, which is $150 per person by March 25th. So you have to sign up no later than March 25th to get this 150 off per person, okay? And for people who do have loyalty, they get this too, so it's like a double dipping. Yeah, next. So what are you waiting for? September 30th to October 9th, the deposit is $698 per person. The cancel for any reason insurance is $449 per person. All of that is 100% refundable until March 25th. The final payment date of the tour and any options is going to be July 24th, 2024. We're going to do a round trip group transfer. We said Newark because we're hoping to get a nonstop, but we don't know if we're going to get it or not, but it might be changed to Kennedy. But we're including the transportation there, the air taxes, airport hotel transfers, the hotel porterage, which means when the guy brings your bags to the room, you don't tip them, it's already been done, and 13 meals. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't been to Italy, the breakfasts are not like your Hampton Inn breakfast. They are fabulous. We're talking cheeses and pastries and yogurt and fresh fruit and prosciutto, and I can't even think of what else. They're crazy. They're fabulous. So I like the breakfasts. Okay, let's go to the next one. And this is kind of funny because people always say to us, well, when should I go? You know that voice in your head telling you to travel? Listen to it, because 10 years from now, you'll wish you had. What are you waiting for? Next page. The best time to travel is while you can. Okay. And if you go to the very last page, again, my name is there, but it's also on the brochure. Jean Gagnon, that's my phone number. That's my email address. I am available for any questions whatsoever. And I'm actually going to, we can go to the Zoom people now if you want, and I'll show them what I'm talking about. Okay.
And we can
send
we'll
those to them.
email
Right.
these to.
Well, they're also available on the
The website.
link. So I'll come over here so they can see. Okay, hi, everybody. You can wave. Okay, all right. So what I want to tell you is there is a sign up, a registration form that is, you guys have it here, or you guys can get it online, okay? Now, at the very top of the form, it tells you that the deposit is $698 per person. Reservations are made on a first come, first served basis. After you make them March 25th, it's based on availability. So you really want to try to do it before March 25th. All deposits and payments are refundable up until March 25th. Now, you can sign up for this tour even if you don't have all the information we ask for on this. Basically, I'm talking about passport, okay? Because some people say, oh, I haven't renewed my passport yet, or I haven't even gotten my passport yet. Still sign up for the tour. Just say that you're waiting to get your passport. And then the nice thing about having me local is you can just call me. Jean, I got my passport. I'll take your information, or you can email me a copy of it. You know, I'm here, you know, or if you want to do any trips beforehand, if you want to do anything later, you've got a local professional who can help you. Okay, I just want to make sure you're aware of that. The other thing that's in there is on the back is where you can sign up to the optional tours, which are basically the Vatican, Capri, and the food tour. You don't have to do that now. Okay, you can think about it, because also included in that are details of what those optional tours are. So you've got something that says available options, and it goes in details what's included. And then the other thing that you can look at is the extend your vacation with Florence. Okay, now that is something that you would, if you wanted to do that, you would want to sign up for that sooner than later, because we have to change your airfare so that you go to Florence first. Okay, but you would still get the transportation from wherever we're leaving from in Albany. Okay. Okay. The only other thing that you would have to check ahead of time, because we have a meeting about 30 days before the trip leaves for everybody who's going on it, where we hand out your tickets, we go over all the kind of last minute things, you know, so like, you don't need to know now that, yeah, what's the tipping? You know, what's the percentage? We'll talk about that 30 days ahead of time. Otherwise, you'll just ask me the same questions over and over again. So that'll be fine. But besides checking your passport, the other thing you want to check is you want to look at your credit card and find out whether the credit card charges a currency conversion fee, sometimes also called a foreign transaction fee. You just call the 800 number on the back of your credit card, ask them whether they charge that or not. If they do, then you don't want to use that card when you travel. You want to start looking into either getting a Capital One or somebody who doesn't charge that fee. Because why would you want to pay 3% more for something just because they're converting it from US to, from euros to US? Okay, so passport and credit card. All right. What questions? Anybody at home have questions? I feel like it does. I don't know. But anyway, anybody at home have any questions?
I would like your email address, please.
Of course, it's Jean, Jean,
Yeah.
the only right way to spell it, at Plaza Travel,
All one word.
all one word, yep, plazatravel.net, not .com, .net. So Jean at plazatravel.net.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from home? No? Okay, any questions here?
Hi, Virginia.
Hi, Carol.
Oh,
I know Carol.
isn't that funny?
And Harriet,
Have a
is that,
question here.
Okay, so my question is, now, if you use your credit card to pay for your trip, now, does
That doesn't matter.
does this agency, well, how do I put it? The bonus, I mean, sometimes if you use it for travel, you get bonus from the company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so let's
does
say,
this agent, does this travel company, does this company, 'cause last year, we went to Ireland and it didn't happen.
well, who did you pay?
The agency, the travel agency.
And you didn't get bonus point, you couldn't get the extra points because
Yes.
they didn't come through as travel?
Yes.
Well, that's not good. But yes, Colette would come through as travel. And you would get bonus points
Yeah.
when you use your credit card.
Yeah.
And you can use any credit card because that's a US charge.
Okay.
Okay, that's a US charge. I'm just talking about when you go there.
Okay.
But yes, it comes through as Colette Travel.
Uh.
Because when I've traveled with them, I've used my Capital One card.
Okay.
Where I bought an excursion, and then when I came home, I was able to wipe it off. Because it's considered travel. Yeah. Yes.
First of all, I used to deal with Tony.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
In my business way back when. We worked with Plaza Travel a long time. Deb had arranged a 12-day custom tour to France. I don't know if you recall that last summer, Morocco. Yeah,
Phil, right?
yeah, she did a fabulous job.
Yeah, I know.
It was really a phenomenal trip with family and, history of the family back to 1600 in southern France. It was just
Oh,
great,
that's
from
great.
Paris on down. Are you going on this trip?
I am not going on that trip.
Okay, is anyone from Plaza Travel going?
Not on this trip. No, it'll be escorted by the Colette professional,
All right,
the tour manager,
starting
starting from there. Okay,
right,
so when you arrive, there'll be somebody holding the Colette sign. And they're the one that you'll meet and go
Okay.
with.
on the Florence trip, we're going actually on a Mediterranean cruise the end of March for
Mhm.
10 days. And Florence is on that trip. We're flying into Rome, but not staying there. We're just getting on the
Right.
ship and going up to Florence for a few days and then France and Spain.
But
How
are
long-
you stopping, are you going to Florence from the ship?
Yeah, but that's a 3-day stop, so it's.
Oh, okay.
But my question is, if we wanted to do more of Florence, how long is that train ride from Florence to Rome? I noticed it's by train.
Oh, it's like 2 hours.
2 hour?
Yeah.
Okay, all
Fast train.
trained.
Yeah.
right.
It's really, yeah, it's good.
Are all the sites that are on the tour, and the optional tours, do we all have skip the line tickets
Yes,
for all of them?
absolutely.
Which is critical,
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
The travel insurance, is that included in the quoted price?
No, if you look at the price and then, not included implies cancellation waiver and
Okay.
insurance, $449 per
I didn't
person.
read,
No,
I
that's
didn't read-
okay,
I didn't
that's
read the whole thing.
Yeah.
What's the translation waiver?
$449 per person.
What is it though?
That's the cancellation insurance I was talking about. If you had to cancel, I highly, highly, highly highly recommended. I did have somebody on my
Definitely.
Morocco trip who said, my credit card covers travel insurance.
Hmm.
Okay, well, the bag went missing. She didn't have a bag for 7 days. She couldn't get any claim from them. Oh, that, we don't cover that. You know what I mean?
That waiver purchase is really important and
Yeah.
and worthwhile. The other question I had was, so we're staying. We have one hotel change, right?
Yes,
We go to Rome.
3 nights in
we
Rome,
Unpack and pack 4 to 5 days later,
right,
and then we go to Amalfi. So there's only 2 hotels.
exactly,
2 hotels for the whole trip,
Right.
so it's one change,
right,
essentially.
right. Yeah, it's not 2 here, 2 there,
Yeah,
2 there, right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
The other stuff can wait.
Okay,
I'm good, thank you.
in Rome, dude?
you know,
It's
I
listed.
think it's in here.
Hotel Imperial.
Yes, the Imperiale. It's the one that's right near, it's right sort of at the end of Via Veneto. Great location. That's the other thing. I had somebody who was trying to find a tour that fit into some dates. And we were looking at 2 different companies, and oddly enough, one was Colette. And the other tour company's hotel was on the north side of the Borghese Gardens. Like,
That's a long.
that's a long walk. That's a long walk. No, this is a great location right off the famous Via Veneto, not too far from the American Embassy. It's a great location, great location.
Do you
Yes.
use one particular airline or?
No, we use a lot of different airlines, usually whoever they give the best
So
group
you don't
based
know at
on.
this point which
We
airline?
don't know yet. It's too early to tell. It's too early to tell.
Gene, with
Yes.
the places we're going, I'm wondering, should I start learning my Italian now? Or everywhere I go, they're
No.
ready to speak?
They're all ready to speak English. They're all ready to speak English. Sometimes I'll be in a little town and sort of, I'll be exploring and go off the beaten track and I'll stop in a little shop and I'll walk in. I always say buongiorno and buongiorno. And I say, do you speak English? She goes, no. You know, she's the woman with the hair pulled back and the long black dress. She goes, un momento. And she goes to the back, Paolo. And Paolo comes out with his cell phone and everything, and then he takes care of me, you know. But I would say 95% of the time they're gonna speak English.
We were in Tuscany and Umbria and on a walking tour in small little places, and it was nice and sometimes necessary that I
Right.
had studied time for that. I've
Right.
forgotten it since then.
Well, the thing is nowadays with your cell phone, you
Google
can
it.
actually, you can actually Google Translate.
Yep.
And you actually say something to them and then they, you know, they do it that way. And I had to do it actually in my office the other day. I had some gentleman come in who didn't speak English very well and I used my Google Translate.
I speak French. It was one of my degrees in college and it's been a long time. But my daughter, I'm trying to speak French in these really small towns in France that we were in. And she was Googling this stuff before I could. Yeah.
Right, before you could remember it, yeah,
I
yeah.
would still appreciate to be able to say good morning, how are
Oh,
you?
yeah, and that's
Yes,
what,
that's
and I
nice.
will actually give that to you. We always give somebody, you know, hello, how are you, thank you.
Yeah.
But in Italy, buongiorno is good day, and buonasera is good evening. Buonanotte, you don't really use a lot, because that would be more like to your spouse when you're going to sleep, good night, you know, that kind of good night. But if you were leaving someplace, you'd be buonasera. So one time I was walking around outside of Genoa, and there were these sweet ladies in front of a church, and I pointed to them and I said, do you speak English? No English. So I said, I go, is that church? I go, the Croce. I said, you know, is it yours? Oh, yeah, it's our church. And I said, you know, then when I was leaving, I said, oh, buongiorno. And they go, no, buonasera. So, you know, they're charming. They're absolutely charming. And I'd say, especially in hotels and in restaurants, you'll even find in restaurants now, they'll have English menus.
Right.
They'll either have the Italian on top and then the English underneath, or they'll say,
They'll
they'll hand you an English menu as you walk in, you go, oh, how did you know? I wasn't Italian. They go, come on. So it's very, very easy. You know, like you said, you were in small towns. That's different. That's different. Rome is fabulous. So, what other questions? Any other questions? No? Okay. So if you wanted to, I would help you sign up tonight, or you can call me, or you can do it online. Just remember that March 25th date, because after that, you don't get that additional 150 off. Okay? All right.
And can I just attest to, she has been phenomenal to work with. If any of you have done travel anyplace else, she is the best. We've called her with some crazy questions at crazy times, always, always, always on top of it. So
Thank you.
very much. It's made our lives easy.
Well, that's the benefit is that, yeah.
Green book or.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody
Thank you. So
online.
thank you, everybody. Call me or send me an email if you have any questions, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, very nice.
Oh,
meeting
yeah,
you.
if
Thank you
anybody
for
wants
coming.
COVID test before you go.
Oh, you know what? I guess I will take one of those. Mine expired. You know how they said they're expired, but then we're gonna let them be.
You can go for a year.
Longer.
Yeah.
Which I did, but then even those expired. Well, you did a great job. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for coordinating it. It was great seeing. I'll tell Dad
Yeah.
that I started.
I can't do anything tonight, I gotta talk to him.
Call me if you have any questions. You know, that's what I'm there for. Some people like to do it online. I'll show